The door slammed. Where was I? In the office or at home? Had someone come in as my partner went out? Did my partner go out? Was this silence I heard, this scuffle, creak, squeak, scrape, gurgle and muff? Tea was being poured. Heavy thighs trembled in stilettos. I sipped the liquid. It was welcome. My physician greeted me warmly. In a minute, old girl, we'll take off those bandages. Have a rock cake. I declined. The birds are in the bird bath, called his white wife. They all rushed to look. My sons sent something flying. Someone? Surely not. I had never heard my sons on such good form. They chattered, chuckled, discussed their work with their uncle. My parents were silent. The room seemed very small, smaller than I'd remembered it. But I knew where everything was, every particular. But the smell had altered. Perhaps because the room was overcrowded. My husband burst, gasping, out of a fit of laughter, as he was wont to do in the early days of our marriage. Why was he laughing? Had someone told him a joke? Who? His sons? Unlikely. My sons were discussing their work with my physician and his wife. Be with you in a minute, old girl, he called to me. Meanwhile, my partner had the two assistants half stripped on a convenient rostrum. Whose body swelled the most? I'd forgotten. I picked up a ping-pong ball. It was hard. I wondered how far he had stripped them. Top halves or bottom halves? Or perhaps he was now raising his spectacles to view the swelling breasts of my secretary, or Mark's swelling manhood. How could I verify this? by movement, by touch. That was out of the question. And could such a thing happen under the eyes of my own children? Would they continue to chat and chuckle as they did with my physician? Hardly. Still, it was good to have the bandage on straight and the knots tight. My eyes are worse. My physician is an inch under 6 feet. There's a grey strip in his hair. One, no more. He has a brown stain on his left cheek. His lampshades are dark blue drums. Each has a golden rim. They're identical. There's a deep black burn in his Indian carpet. His staff is bespectacled to a woman. Through the blinds, I hear the birds of his garden. Sometimes his wife appears in white. He's clearly skeptical on the subject of my eyes. According to him, my eyes are normal, perhaps even better than normal. He can find no evidence that my sight is growing worse. My eyes are worse. It's not that I do not see. I do see. My job goes well. My family and I remain close friends. My 2 sons are my closest friends. My husband is closer. I remain close friends with all my family, including my mother and my father. Often we sit and listen to Bach. When I go to Scotland, I take them with me. My husband's brother came once and was useful on the trip. I have my hobbies, one of which is using a hammer and nails, or screwdriver and screws, or various saws, on wood, constructing things, or making things useful, finding a use for something which appears to have no value. But it is not so easy when you see double, or when you're blinded by the object or when you do not see at all, or when you're blinded by the object. My husband is happy. I use my imagination in bed. We love with the light on. I watch him closely. He watches me. In the morning, his eyes shine. I see them shining through his foggy spectacles. All winter, the skies were bright. Rain fell at night, but in the morning, the skies were bright. My backhand flip was my strongest weapon. It made grown men go weak at the knees. Taking position to face my husband's brother across the dear table, the bat lightly clasped, my wrist flexing, I waited to loosen my flip to his forehand. Watch him, shocked, dart and be beaten, flounder and sulk. My forehand was not so powerful, not so swift. A flicker of hope for a floundering man. Predictably, he attacked my forehand. There was a ringing sound in the room, a rubber sound in the walls. Predictably, he attacked my forehand. But once far to the right on my forehand, and my weight genuinely disposed, I could employ my backhand flip. Unanswerable. Watch him flounder, skid, and be beaten. They were close games. But it is not now so easy when you see double, or when you do not see at all, or when, hurtling towards you at speed, the ball blinds you. I'm pleased with my assistants. They know the business well and love it. He is trustworthy. She makes calls to Birmingham or Newcastle on my behalf and is never fobbed off. He's respected on the telephone. They both have persuasive voices. My partner and I agree that they are of inestimable value to us. My husband and my partner often discuss her when the three of us meet for coffee or drinks. Neither of them, when discussing Wendy, can speak highly enough of her. On bright days, of which there are many, I close the blinds in the office in order to dictate. Often I touch his swelling manhood while she reads back, flips the page. even were I, while he speaks on the telephone, holding the receiver lightly, his other hand poised for notes, to touch his swelling manhood. The call would still be followed to its conclusion. It is she who bandages my eyes while I touch his swelling manhood. I do not remember being like my sons in any way when I was a girl. Their reserve is remarkable. They seem stirred by no passion. They sit silent. An odd mutter passes between them. What are you saying? I can't hear you. Speak up, I say. My husband says the same. What are you saying? I can't hear you. Speak up. They're of an age. They work well at school, it appears. But at ping pong, both are duds. As a girl, I was wide awake, of passionate interest, voluble, responsive, and my eyesight was excellent. They resemble me in no way. Their eyes are glazed and evasive behind their spectacles. I met my brother-in-law for the first time at our wedding. I still have the present he gave me, a carved pencil sharpener from Bali. First time I interviewed Wendy, she wore a tight tweed skirt. Her left thigh never ceased to caress the right, and vice versa. All this took place under the skirt. She seemed to me the perfect secretary. She listened to my counsel, wide-eyed and attentive, her hands calmly clasped, trim, bulgy, plump, rosy, swelling. She was clearly the possessor of an active and inquiring intelligence. 3 times she cleaned her spectacles with a silken kerchief. I interviewed Mark the next day. He wore a well-pressed suit, and his hair was impeccably combed. His voice was as reassuringly bland as his eyes. Very like a weather forecaster, and about as useful. After the wedding, my brother-in-law sat down with my husband. They had a talk, man to man. He said to my husband, "You have married a good woman. She will make you happy." As he was doing nothing at the time, I invited him to join me in the business. Before long, he became my partner. So keen was his industry, so sharp his business acumen. Wendy's common sense, her clarity, her discretion are of inestimable value to the firm. With my eye to the keyhole, I hear goosing, the squeak of them. The slit is black. Only the sliding gustle on my drum, the hiss and flap of their bliss. The room sits on my head, my skull creased on the brass and loathsome handle I dare not twist, for fear of seeing black screech and scrape of my secretary writhing blind in my partner's paunch and jungle. I close the blinds and summon Mark to dictate. My husband reached down to me. Do you love me? He asked. I do love you. I spat in his eyeball. And I shall prove it yet. I shall prove it yet. What proof yet? What proof remaining? What proof not yet given? All proof. For my part, I adopted a more cunning, more elusive stratagem. Do you love me? Was my counter. The ping-pong table, streaked with slime. My hands pant to gain the ball. My sons watch. They cheer me on. They are loud in their loyalty. I'm moved. I fall back on strokes and gambits long since gone. Flip, cut, chop, slip, bluff to my uttermost. I play the ball by nose. The twins hail my efforts gustily. But my brother-in-law is no chump. He slams again. He slams again, deep to my forehand. I flounder, skid, stare sightless into the crack of his bat. Where are my hammers? My screws? My saws? How are you? Said my partner. Bandage on straight? Knots tight? The door slammed. Where was I? In the office? Or at home? Had someone come in as my partner went out? Had he gone out? Was this silence I heard? This scuffle, creak, squeak, scrape, gurgle, and muff? Tea was being poured. Heavy thighs trembled in stilettos. I sipped the liquid. It was welcome. My physician greeted me warmly. In a minute, old girl, we'll take off those bandages. Have a rock cake. I declined. The birds are in the bird bath, called his white wife. They all rushed to look. My sons sent something flying. Someone? No, surely not. I had never heard my sons on such good form. They chattered, chuckled, discussed their work with their uncle. My parents were silent. The room seemed very small, smaller than I remembered it. I knew where everything was, every particular, but the smell had altered. Perhaps because the room was overcrowded. My husband burst gasping out of a fit of laughter, as he was wont to do in the early days of our marriage. Why was he laughing? Had someone told him a joke? Who? His sons? Unlikely. My sons were discussing their work with my physician and his wife. Be with you in a minute, old girl, he called to me. Meanwhile, my partner had the two assistants half stripped on a convenient rostrum. Whose body swelled the most? I'd forgotten. I picked up a ping-pong ball. It was hard. I wondered how far he had stripped them. Top halves or bottom halves? Or perhaps he was now raising his spectacles to view the swelling breasts of my secretary, or Mark's swelling manhood. How could I verify this? By movement, by touch. That was out of the question. And could such a sight take place under the eyes of my own children? Would they continue to chatter and chuckle as they did with my physician? Hardly. Still, it was good to have the bandage on straight and the knots tight.
Where I come from, green is the color of the night. The night. That is how this feels like. And I must finish this before I go to sleep. The very first question she asked me when I came in. Which one was I? The kind that had made too many wrong choices? Or too few? My interlocutor was a nameless, ageless functionary of the state, working at the Center for Harmony and Reconciliation. Funny place that. No one was quite sure what they were meant to be doing. Its official goal was to help us move on. The war ended 2 decades ago. It's only been in the last 3 years that humanity has found itself limping back into some sort of normalcy. Babies are being born without deformations. Cancer deaths are going down. Bodies are being healed. It's time to heal minds. Or souls, if you prefer. So the idea was, they arrange for survivors from both sides to meet one-on-one. Hopefully connect, and maybe, just maybe, figure out a way to believe in humanity again. Crazy idea. Whether it was brilliant or embarrassing, only time will tell. The consensus is, it can't hurt. So this was a road test of the scheme. In each session, one of them would wait in the encounter room, all jellied and spruced, to meet their northern counterparts, fellow survivors of the war, from the other side, like me. I had decided to move down south after the armistice. I'd always loved their music. Bittersweet concoction of chances not taken, of lives defined by irreversible moments. The bleeding ache of precious memory that rang hollow in the sweet smell of the summer harvest on balmy nights. Sorry, I got carried away. Anywho, I am on track for obtaining citizenship here, and the powers that be had decreed this as a bureaucratic requirement. I must confess, I was a wee bit nervous just before the meeting. After all, I had never actually talked to a Southerner about the war or death. But if we didn't hit it off, well, we could just chat, have a couple of drinks, run the clock down, and we would have done our due. We are the right age to have lived through the wrong times. Our generation has made oodles of mistakes or been party to them. Which brings me back to the question she asked me. Which one are you? The kind that made too many wrong choices, or too few? Believe you me, it was the hammerhead of an icebreaker. There was silence in the room, waiting with pent-up fatigue for a story of regrets. I decided to ride out the quiet. If this was all it took, keeping shtum, well, I could do this all day. I've had plenty of practice keeping my lips sealed. my interlocutor was made of sterner stuff. She began talking about the war. They call it the Butcher's War these days in textbooks. Catchy enough for a third grader to play us versus them on the playground. They say it helps to internalize history, make it a part of you, embrace your legacy. Funnily enough, we used to play exactly the same games, but the missiles were real. Scud missiles, green sparklers, and sometimes burst in the sky, and it felt like Christmas, the way it used to be before the war, or so we're told. We had more in stock than they did. Guess that's why I remember more Christmases than most people my age here. The missiles would make a keening noise as they cut through the air into the lower atmosphere, and the alarms would sound, and people would freeze momentarily at whatever they were up to. For an instant, the only things moving would be green lights in the sky, while the earth stood still. And then the spell would break. Faces smoothen out into drill-dreaded blanks smothered by gas masks, and the human world vanishes, replaced by soulless automatons with one active program running. Hide. Survive. Stay sane. Funnily enough, very few bombs reached the inner city. Men and women looked hunted or haunted. There was a military term for it. Something very dashing and vervy. What was it now? Oh. Shock and awe. Psychological intimidation. We invented it. They refined it to a fine art. What else could we do, really? People do need something to kill time in winter, up in the north. The nights are long, the Wi-Fi is weak, and the view is monotonous white and black. Sorry, where was I? Yes, back to the topic at hand. She was still going on about the war, and in a startling leap of association, she began talking about jewels. I must have tuned out. I have no idea how we got to this cocktail party topic. I mentioned I like jade and sense the excitement in her. jade. Family stone of royals. She was hooked. Diet barely murmured a clear syllable. Royalty has its perks, especially in the north, where the nights are long and cold. And you know, the higher up you go, the colder you get. And by the time you get to be a princeling or a king, you're basically a frost giant. All ice and stone. Immovable. You don't say no to a prince very easily. And the palace has the best heating in Denmark, so why not? One can learn to live with a little frostbite. I miss northern skies. My son was born. His father came in, sweaty, stench of blood steaming off him, took the child in his arms, went up to the terrace, and raised the baby high in the direction of the midwinter sky, laughing. The curdling lunacy of a war-crazed bloodhound. It was unearthly. Big, round, bald head silhouetted against the northern skies. And the child, staring, unblinking, at the madness of the world in his father's eyes. Wait, she said. Your child was born in midwinter. And I answered, oh yes, close to mid-morning, on the day of the solstice, the 38th year of the war, in fact, just before I can still see it. My baby boy, rigidly and naturally silent, his father heaving the natural ecstasy and screaming. Didn't realize what he was saying at first. It was a sudden lull in the noise of the people around, an easy silence around the speaking man. I went round, and there he was, looking at me, with his fierce intent, his pupils an unnatural obsidian black. brother staring at him in dawning comprehension. He wanted to celebrate the continuation of his bloodline. Never one to forgo blood for blood. He had just agreed that we dropped the bomb on you. The Omega bomb. Beautifully named. The end of things. It was never intended to be used. It was just there, just in case. No one had ever asked what case. I could see I had her attention now. The butcher's wife, the mother of a child who had killed millions just by being born. Her child was one of them. That's what her file said. He was born on the same solstice as mine. And the big red mushroom cloud in the sky went up. His nurse was walking around on the balcony above the medical bunker. They found her body, huddled against the wall. The limbs had melted and refrozen. An ear had fallen off, as the eyebrows. A Madonna exhibit to welcome the end of things. On its shoulder was a little hump, completely fused. The file didn't mention much after that. Just that she had volunteered to help out being a midwife, retrained herself to try saving kids that looked recognizably human, and received 10 civilian commendations, a knock of the establishment and a card-carrying reconciliationist. Well, I had given her something to reconcile with. She should just have stopped at hello. No, she had to go and rake up the past and keep chattering on about choices made and regrets. As they say at the front door, face the truth. Well, here was the truth. Unvarnished. That's why we're here. The Center for Harmony and Reconciliation. Get to know the other, for the other is you. Some PR whiz kid really put his back into that one. She forgave me. She forgave me. She forgave me. She forgave me for not saying no. And I said, I forgive you. I'm not sure for what. This harmony and reconciliation business is it's not a bad idea, really. Come face to face with ex-enemies, make new friends. Something changed, shifted in the dark room. There was lightning, a bottle was open, and conversation flowed. She then teased me about my scandalous dalliances that had been the stuff of gossip back in the day, really. I played coy for a while, and then caved in. No secrets between friends, right? Yes, the rumors were true. I had slept with the butcher's brother, my very own brother-in-law, and the brains behind the Omega bomb. I developed a sudden interest in rockets. We would drive down to the plains in the direction of the launch site. Enjoy the view. Our last kiss was the day I went into labor. We knew we had to end it. Out there, on the plains, at dusk, as the green lights flared up. We kissed. My soul, just me and him, and my jade, glinting in the moonlit snowscape. Globule of rich green in all that black and white. Best kiss I ever had. Just like the cold, the fear had evaporated, boiled away, and there was just green light, black eyes. Green lights. Must have come in at dusk, gone up to the terrace as usual, looked out over the plains in the direction of the launch site, and seen the glint of green. It must have gleamed from the stuff that we had pretended to go to the rocket site. He knew. The way he kept looking at me while he was holding the baby up. The bomb was his revenge on me and my lover. The story is in the textbooks now. My brother-in-law, the reviled inventor of the Omega bomb, wonders. Sunken eyes, hollow cheeks, for months. He wastes away, starves himself to death. He died before my eyes because I couldn't say no. It wasn't about me saying no at all. All these children, deformed futures, all because I said yes to a man in deepest night. Do you still think I haven't sinned? She said I looked like I needed something strong. She poured me a glass. Bureaucrat to the last, she signed on the blue form, the thing I had come here for, and placed it on the table for me to countersign. She walked out without a word. I finished the drink. Scrawled my signature. Was about to leave when her note on the margin caught my eye. Hyacinth. It's a colorless, odorless poison. Dizziness, semi-paralysis, and sweet relief of death. Have about 30 minutes. Your sins are not for me to judge. But it's time you met someone who can. Thank you for your visit.